Morgantown Area Partnership, and I'm really excited to see you all here today. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. The session will be recorded, and there are virtual attendees. The recording will be made available to all participants and posted to morgantownpartnership.com and our social media channels. Questions for those of you who are virtual will be welcome in the chat box. Just click on the chat icon in the bottom toolbar, and microphones will be muted for the duration of this presentation. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 Mon County Leadership Forum. We want to thank the members of the partnership and all of our guests here. We want to say thank you because we know that it's been quite a tumultuous couple of months, almost 2 years now, and we're really excited to see you all in person, and those of you who are virtual, we're glad that you could join us as well. We'd really like to thank our sponsors here today. From Southern Airways, we have Mark Sestari, and from Avis Creative, we have Bethany Hornbeck. So thank you all. They have tables in the back, so please stop by those on your way out the door this morning. And then before I introduce the moderators for today, I'd like to have our panelists introduce themselves. We'll start with Mayor Patty Lewis from the town of Granville.
Well, you said it. Patricia Lewis. I'm the mayor from the town of Granville. I've been the mayor since 1991, and of course, during that time, Granville's seen a lot of progressive changes, which has been wonderful for our community.
I'm Jenny Selin. I'm the mayor in Morgantown. I've been on city council for about 15 years, and I have been the mayor before, and here I am cycling back in the mayor slot. So I'm happy to be with you all and look forward to the discussion.
My name is Tom Bloom. I'm on my second term as county commissioner. I'm the quiet one.
Right.
Don't believe that. My name is Sean Sikora. I'm also a commissioner on the Monongalia County Commission. I'm the central representative. I'm the representative from the Central Magisterial District, and this is my first term on commission, and it's been a very interesting 5 years. I'm very pleasantly surprised at how the inner workings of the commission works, and excited about all the projects that we have been working on and our work we'll be working on.
And we did extend an invitation to Mayor Herman Reed and Dave Johnson. They were not able to attend today, but they're here with us in spirit. And before we get started, just wanted to say thank you to the Governmental Affairs Committee from the partnership, Melissa Hornbeck and Dave Miller, for putting this together. The organization clearly shows off. It's a great function, so thank you all. So without further ado, our moderators, Charlie Russell from Steptoe & Johnson and Melissa Hornbeck from White Diamond Realty, will get us going with this great event.
Yeah, thank you. So just to lay out the format, sort of we're divided into two parts. One sort of business related, and the second part's sort of real estate related. And we'll try to segregate municipalities from the county to get some discussion. I think that's the big thing for the day is let's not answer questions. Let's talk with each other and hear what we have to say. So take about 3-4 minutes per question. You start running long. Emily here will
Oh, wait.
Throw the gong.
I'm leaving first.
I'll be lenient, but yeah, just to stay on schedule.
Yeah. So let's get started here. So the first question will be for municipal representatives. We'll start with you, Mayor Lewis. What is the biggest challenge Granville is facing?
Probably we have a few challenges. One, probably our biggest challenge might be the presence of dilapidated or abandoned properties. We have code enforcement, we have zoning. We have a planning commission, a board of zoning appeals, but when you have owners that are out of state or out of town and have no vested interest in the property within the municipality, it really becomes a challenge. That's probably our biggest challenge. Right now, we're also facing a challenge of increased traffic because of development around us, but we are currently working with the county commission to try to resolve that issue. We have an old infrastructure system, which hopefully our town council will choose to use American Relief Plan money to address that. And so we're kind of leaning in that direction for the ARPA money that the town of Granville received. But those are probably our three biggest issues, challenges.
Same question to you, Selin.
So, so our housing issues include dilapidated houses and houses that just need refurbishment to the point where they can be used for workforce housing. So it seems as though the student housing, I believe we have enough. I'm sure if there's more development, then that would be great also. But I would say having homes that are affordable and kept up and able to be used by individuals who come to Morgantown to work all through the spectrum. So pretty much at every price point, having enough homes available so that we have a workforce that doesn't all have to commute in and are well housed. So that would be one. Stormwater management is another one that's come up quite a bit this year, where we have a couple of areas, and they're not areas right down near a river that you would think would be flooding, but they're areas that are flat that then have drainages above that there's been development and the stormwater hasn't been managed well, and it's just kind of all coming down and settling into some of the flat areas. So that's our ARPA funds were paying for some of that, and we're working with the stormwater utility through MUB to work on that. I would say there's definitely some issues here in the you wouldn't think of this as an issue, but while we're trying to modernize kind of across the board, communication. So different ways that different groups, especially during COVID, being able to just speak between groups, every different group. So trying to speak with you all and getting to hear what your concerns are. Working back and forth between governmental entities, trying to work with the Division of Highways or other entities, and just moving things forward by having some direct communication between people.
That's all I can. You've heard the facts. I'm ask the next question from up here. So you've heard each other's biggest challenges you're facing. And let's stick with you, Mayor Selin, and we'll go back to Mayor Lewis. What do you think can be done to work together with the other municipalities in the county for the collective benefit? If you want to elaborate on your colleagues in Westover and Star City as well, please feel free to do that.
So, do you want to start? So I just found out by sitting at a table instead of up here that the city manager in Granville was speaking with city manager in Morgantown. So I would say the city manager and our assistant city manager about different issues, even like as specific as a piece of equipment and how to make that purchase, and whether we happen to have one that could be demoed. But I think that we need more of that, of just people sitting down and talking about even really simple things. And the thing we always bring up is stuff like salt. So if we could make a large salt purchase, and maybe it doesn't, I'm not sure that salt is as expensive maybe as it was at some one point, but shared purchasing, ways that we can be better physically connected. So if there's a way that people can get from one municipality to another, because we're all right next to each other, be it the bridge between Westover and Morgantown, or other ways that we can connect people so that they can, so we can have an interconnected economy and be a more desirable place to live.
Mayor Lewis, do you have any thoughts on how you can work together with Morgantown, Westover, Star City on solving collective issues?
Well, several years back, there was an effort actually started by the county commission to bring the municipalities together exactly for that purpose. And when the group initially started, and Granville was a part of it from the very beginning, it was open to Blacksville, Granville, Star City, Westover, and Morgantown, and spearheaded by the county commission. And that was our hope at that time, to do the things that Mayor Selin said. And actually, Granville did purchase salt, I think, 1 year with the city of Morgantown, and somehow that just, it kind of went south. I'm not even sure how that happened. I think maybe there was a change in city manager or someone, and so we were not able to do that after that. But as far as I know, I think that's the only cooperative effort there was to try to purchase salt, in a larger quantity for a cheaper price. We talked about sharing equipment. We've done that with the city of Westover on occasion. They've needed our help. We've needed a bucket truck, and it's been minimal, but we have shared some services. If we had equipment that they needed and they had a piece of equipment that was broken down, we've tried to help them out and vice versa. I think the hardest part for us, and it's probably not for Jenny, because the city of Morgantown is so big, but it's been a challenge for the town of Granville. I think because we're a class 4 town, and there has been, as far as my opinion, a lack of respect for our municipality, because we are the smallest, other than Blacksville. I'm not sure what the population of Blacksville is, but in the county. And I think the municipalities tend to do their own thing. They're territorial. I mean, that's just always the way that it's been. And there's now the police department. Now they have mutual aid agreement between them. They back each other up. The fire departments back each other up. We still have a volunteer company, but the town, our elected officials actually opted to put paid personnel into the volunteer company because of all the development at University Town Center. We have box stores, we have 2 residential, we've got the Domain, we've got Blackbird Village, and those businesses and in the hospital, they deserve that service. But there again, the fire departments have mutual aid too, but sometimes the smaller municipalities are just kind of left out, hanging out to dry by themselves. But I don't know what the answer to that is.
Find out. That's right. Okay, moving to the county commissioners. You've heard municipality speak. Start with Commissioner Bloom, Commissioner Sikora. But what is the county commission's role in liaising between the municipalities as they navigate their individual challenges?
I would say that that's probably the most difficult issue that we're facing right now between the governmental bodies. What we try and say is that it's imperative to build partnerships. And as we need to build these relationships with small businesses, Chamber of Commerce, WVU, the medical community, and other levels of government, it never stops. And building the mutual respect and a healthy work environment is key to succeed in today's environment. Now, that's the official county line. The bottom line is we need to do a better job on that. And I think we are slowly starting to do that. I really believe that the new city manager, Morgantown, has opened up doors that we've not had before. I speak with the assistant city manager of Morgantown. But I also agree with Patty. We had started a program several years ago where we did get together and meet. And I'm not sure what really happened, but for whatever reason, we stopped doing that. And without communication, we cannot solve the problem. And the key point that you're going to hear throughout today is everybody can throw money at the problem, but to actually get your hands dirty and be a part of the solution is the way to go. And that would be my number one recommendation.
I really see the county's role is being a liaison and working with the municipalities to address their challenges. And I really feel like we are doing that. We really don't realize sometimes, but there are a lot of different things where examples where we've worked together. I prefer not to look at areas where we disagree, but look at areas where we agree and areas that we can work forward. And I think we've done a lot of that. There's numerous examples with the city of Morgantown. We've been working together on the airport extension for a long time. The Development Authority is embedded in that project, even though it's a municipal project. So we've had a lot to do with that. The Airport Commerce Park, the Richwood project is, Mayor Selin talked about blight. We're addressing a major area of the city in the county commission and in conjunction with the city and in conjunction with our Development Authority and W has moved forward to make that deal actually possible by funding the interest on the original loan for a period of 3 years. So we're stepping in areas that really aren't really county area, county responsibilities, but we're throwing our hat in and helping where we need to address these issues. Stormwater management, Mayor Selin mentioned stormwater management. We just are in the process of approving an MOU where we're going to contribute some of our ARP dollars to fixing a problem which is only 25% of the city, 75% of the, the city only sits in 25% of this area. 75% of the area is county, but it's causing 75% of the problems with the water runoff in the Pocono Run area. So again, another example of something that we're jumping in with. Granville, we've worked closely with Granville on the University Town Center whole project. And now we just had something that popped up in the last couple of months. We need to do a study regarding the traffic coming down off the hill. We need a couple lights, working with the developer and Granville as to how we can address that issue. And those are ongoing conversations. Star City, we have an active TIF that we're dealing with Star City. Westover, we have the Westridge development, which we're working closely. The Gateway development, we're working closely with Westover. Overall, and then when you look at everything from a overall standpoint, it wasn't mentioned yet, but connectivity, broadband. The county is taking the lead in our broadband project for everybody in the county, not just unincorporated areas. So we're looking at that and we're communicating as to, hey, this is what we're planning. We're not doing that in a vacuum and making decisions for these municipalities. We're having them in the room and having these conversations. So I think sometimes we forget about where we really are in agreement, where we really are working together. And I think there's numerous examples. The Board of Education, just last week, the commission struck a deal with the Board of Education is Commissioner Bloom. I'll let Commissioner Bloom talk about it because it's his baby and his idea. But a program where we would ensure that every second grader in this county had an opportunity to learn to swim by the time they were in the second grade, teaching adults to swim. So there's a lot of opportunities or areas where we're working together. Sometimes we only focus on the areas where we're not working together. And I think it's important to, to pause and take a step back and look at where we do agree and the things we are doing for the betterment of all of our citizens, whether they live in a municipality or whether they live in the unincorporated areas.
Thank you, and I think you touched on some of this next question, but feel free to elaborate. There's also the second part. What are areas where the different municipalities and the county government can consolidate services to avoid duplication and increase efficiencies? Part one. Part two, is it feasible to explore consolidation of municipalities or a metro form of government? For Commissioner Sikora, start off.
Good.
Good luck with that.
I know. I can't wait to
Well,
hear it.
Well, there are a lot of areas where we're already working together. Animal control. We have an agreement between all municipalities where the county takes care of animal control for the whole county. So with the municipalities, we have agreements where we run transport to the regional jail and do that for all the municipalities. Currently we're working on a GIS project where we're shared resources, where our GIS team and the city's GIS team, instead of everybody buying the same data rights, we're sharing data rights. So I just think there's multiple areas where we're working together. This whole organization, MAP, is a perfect example of working together and taking where previously someone came to Mon County and they wanted to talk about economic development. We can talk to the chamber, you can talk to the development authority, you can talk to NW, you can talk to any number of individuals where we said this isn't effective. Let's build an entity and let's consolidate some of those effort that everybody is doing into one entity. And MAP's a perfect example. 4 years in, it's shown all kinds of benefits. I mean, the things we're talking about now in this county from an economic development standpoint, it's exponentially increased over just the past couple of years. And I attribute a lot of that to the partnership, which the commission is 100% in support of. So there's just a lot of different things where we continue. Are there other areas? Certainly there's other areas. I mean, in a county of our size, with 105,000 residents, do we really need 7 public safety components? Where each municipality has their own police, we have the county, we have the state, we have W. There's areas where we can consolidate and do those things. We may never get to a metro government standpoint because, again, there's just people don't want to lose their identity, and there's a lot of areas where just people don't want to give up their power. But I think to get to something like that, we all of us standing here have to say, yeah, we're all in favor of a better model, and we're all going to walk away tomorrow just to see that model. So we're a while away from seeing something like that. But we can certainly talk about it and certainly look towards the future of those type of endeavors.
The biggest project that is going to happen, and it already has started, I call it the Ramada Inn Project. That is a city-county concern, and it's also every downtown business owner and personal property owner. What we have decided to do was to get nonprofits out of their siloed type of thinking and say, okay, we are going to put a program up here that can benefit groups of individuals who need the help. And the Ramada Inn Project, as I call it, is taking these nonprofits, the Bartlett House, United Way, Health Right, that now the city has offered some funds, and I can say that we have been asked from Health Right, and we are also proposing some funds also to them. So we move up there. So the key being that what has happened in the past was the nonprofits were fighting for grant money, so they wouldn't share the information. Now you're able to share the information and help an individual, and it's not redundancy. So that to me is probably the greatest success, and we will see in the future. At the same time, the one question after you asked them, and I really wanted to say, what is our biggest concern and problem in the county and the city? And people don't want to talk about it, but I've dealt with it as a guidance counselor, dealt as a city council member. We have a serious drug problem. We do. And it used to be what was those other type of people, it was homeless. It affects all different groups of people. And it affects personally your family. It affects the business. It affects the workforce. And I'll end this way as what really concerns me. When a business comes to look at this community, they ask usually 3 questions. The realtors know this. What is the educational program? We surpass or equal to anyone. What is the quality of life? Whether it's Granville, whether it's Morgantown, we surpass. And then the hard question, do we have the potential, I call it, quote, the workforce to pass a drug test? And that's where the concern lies. So it's challenging. I think that's one of the things that if all of us are trying to work together, and we need, and I will say this to you all, this is not just a government problem. We need your help and your guidance, because that's the only way we're going to solve that part of it. Now, to answer your second question, I'm trying to think. Yes, it doesn't make sense to have in this small little community 5 different cities, 5 different governments, 5 different police forces. It doesn't. I know at one time we had talked about the possibility of combining police forces in some way to work together. And I think that's a real possibility. I will be upfront because that's the way I am. Unfortunately, there's a segment that doesn't want to lose their identity, and the fire departments and the volunteer fire departments would need a lot of convincing to do this. So maybe what we need to do is start sharing on issues that we could work together on, as Sean talks about, and then out of that grow from there. So that's how I would say.
Sticking with the county commissioners, I'm debating whether to give the municipalities a chance to respond.
Yeah, have them.
So,
Toss it out.
same question. Because it does involve you. Consolidating services, I mentioned police, maybe code enforcement, anything, and whether consolidation of municipalities or metro form of government.
Take that one.
Whoever-
I'll start.
Okay.
No, I'll start. But I want to go back to that original county forum. Okay. That concept, when we started that, I thought was a wonderful idea and a wonderful opening up of sharing services. My opinion, what happened with that group, and this is not a reflection on WVU and I don't mean it that way, but you know, we started with the municipalities, and honestly, I can't remember if Blacksville, Tom, was Blacksville ever?
No, they never.
Okay. And we really need to do a better job of reaching out to them.
Mhm.
But WVU started coming to those meetings. The Board of Education started coming to those meetings. And so I think that group totally lost focus because the issues started to be with, you know, what the board, I think that should have been a topic for like a different group to have all those folks involved. But when it was just the municipalities and it was just the county, I think we were on the right path to say, okay, we have this, you have that, what can we do to consolidate services or equipment or whatever. But it just, after a few months, I don't know, we lost focus somehow. But I see like with our police department maybe, and the fire department I can't speak to as much because we have the only combination department in the county. So we are actually a volunteer company. And as I stated before, our elected officials chose to put full-time staff into that volunteer company because the restrictions and the qualifications, you know, what they have to do now to be a volunteer are crazy. So the volunteer sector is really kind of tapering off. People can't commit that kind of time. And that's state mandated. That's not county, you know, even to ride on a fire truck, they have to have like 40 or 80 hours worth of training. And people can't do that have young families. It's just almost impossible. So that's why we did what we did. But then I think you have to look at your police departments, and ours would be included, the city of Morgantown, you know, what their policies are, what they are actually able to do if they go to help Westover. I think policies would need to be looked at. You know, if you don't have jurisdiction and you're going into another municipality, what rights do you really have to make an arrest or, you know, do traffic stops? Of course, state police, sheriff's department can go anywhere in the county and they have jurisdiction. So there are a lot of obstacles there. I think it's a great idea to share resources and you know, among the municipalities, but that may be a long time coming. I think there's a lot of obstacles.
Selin?
So you can kind of flip the question a couple different ways. So one way to leave the question is to look at how, for instance, how federal dollars might come to an area. And as people look at areas, West Virginia's municipalities are all pretty small. Our counties, there's a lot of them and they're pretty small. So one way to look at it to kind of be competitive for our area, say for federal highway dollars or development dollars, would be to even look at counties and how counties could collaborate. So once again, each keeping their own identity, but looking, you know, at what is the issue or the problem, and then, or the opportunity even better. And do we need the 5 or 6 counties in our area to pull in the clout and the dollars and the whatever it is that we need? Do we need the municipalities to work together? So our county government covers the whole county, not just the unincorporated areas of the county, but the whole county. Some places, the county government is kind of like just the unincorporated areas, and then the cities or the smaller communities, they're each their own entity. So there isn't the kind of overlap that we have here. And so a county's role gets tricky with a municipality because it's overlapping. Just like we're talking about, you know, state police can be anywhere, you know, we have all of these overlaps. So it's how we handle, whether we handle the overlaps with grace or whether we handle the overlaps with conflict or acrimony. And I think we have done a really good job in any number of issues of, you know, matching money to accomplish something, matching effort of different kinds to try to make sure that that needs are met. But I think we need to make sure that cities are respected, that when you're asking the question about consolidation of the cities, that you're talking to the cities and not just the county. And just looking at how we can work together to really make our whole region functional. And it's just, you know, functional on all the different levels. Like, is there one problem facing each community in the county? No, there's any number of issues and any number of huge wins that are going on right now. So I don't think the only issue is, can we consolidate and make sure that all of the police departments are working together or all of the fire departments are working together, but how can we move closer to some of those goals while still keeping all of our other projects going?
And Patty, what's called the Community Leadership Forum, which started in 2013.
And it was kept to 1 hour.
Right, but you're really good at that.
Yes. And they covered any number of topics, and it didn't maybe achieve its primary goal, but it was good as a communication device. And it was good because it wasn't putting anyone on the hot seat that you have to do something, but it was kind of learning about different things that were going on, different initiatives, so that we all kind of had the same background, which was nice.
I had one more thing about the current discussion. Yeah, as a state, we average about 32,000 people for a county if you straight line it. We have about half our counties that are under 25,000 in population. I remember during COVID, we had a family in Pocahontas County that contracted COVID and took the county from green to red. It's such a small county. So we do, but consolidation really is really a step of last resort in most people's opinion. It's something that do not want to be do unless they are dragged into it or out of necessity. And I think in southern West Virginia, there's a lot of areas where they benefit from it. But I don't think we have to get to the point where it's a necessity where we can do things to work together. And I think it is respect. It's you know, and everybody having, you know, not losing their identity. So when you're talking about municipalities inside a county, moving to more of a central government, you still have to have an identity. You still have to have Morgantown. You still have to have Granville, because that's what people remember. You know, so but there's ways that you could do that. There's just the proof is in the details as you work them out and giving people a voice, just like the whole community forum, just giving each of those municipalities a voice, we're able to work through for. So maybe, you know, maybe somewhere in time we can take that further. They passed the Consolidated Local Governments Act, I believe in 2005, then about 16 years ago, and not one county in the state, anywhere in the state has ever taken a step towards enacting that. And about 3 years ago, they tried to incorporate some incentives to move people in that direction, and still no traction. So it's really a tough sell, but people ought to look at areas like Nashville and some of the consolidated governments that are just, you know, going gangbusters, really efficient government. It really should start looking more and talking and having those conversations.
Okay, I think this will be my last question. Commissioner Sikora, are you aware of any other West Virginia County structures or programs that would work well here that we are currently not doing or able to do? For example, we're redrawing our magisterial districts, and I believe Berkeley County has 5 commissioners. That'd be something that would work well here.
Now, when I ran, I was someone that was running against 3 commissioners, and there was talk about having another commissioner. At that time, the state was still, it hadn't really turned Republican. It was still kind of really a split. And the commission had been predominantly Democrat. So obviously people were running, hey, let's have more seats. We could do that in one county if we did this, if we had a petition of at least 10% of the voters put forth something that we put on the ballots to go in that direction. But having been on commission, again, I spoke to it when I was running, hey, it'd be a good idea if we had more people in the room. But I really think we work together very well. You don't see, you know, you have to run, when you're running for the position, you have to run under a party. But once you're in office, it's been a very pleasant surprise that politics never play a role into it. We just work together for, you know, how we can accomplish this and how we can accomplish that. In areas where we disagree, we talk about and work through and either agree to disagree or come to some sort of resolution. So I've kind of evolved that I don't really feel it's necessary because it'd be an additional cost. And I'm a person that's always looking at that bottom line. But it certainly, if the people were, you know, I'm also defer to the will of people. It's something that people felt strong enough that we needed an additional commissioners. But from my perspective, I just don't think it's necessary. And speaking of things that we do, that are done elsewhere that we can learn from here, I think our county is an example for the state. It's usually the other way around. We're doing things here that the rest of the state is looking towards and modeling. So I'm not really sure, but we're always open to talking and listening to how things are done in other areas.
No, I would agree. I first ran believing that 5 people would be a better working leadership forum for the county commission, but after being on there, and I'd add one more thing. One of the things we did, the 3 commissioners, and we were fortunate, we were the first county to go with what was called the Monongalia County checkbook, Because one of the concerns, if you go from 3 to 5, is to get more information out to the public. So what this basically OpenGov.com did was it now shows our county what we do every month, how we spend their money, where the money goes, where the checks are. So that element of concern, of distrust, let's say, of the county has been basically lost, because people can go at any time to see what the county's doing.
I think, Tom, you're hitting on a good point, transparency. It's
Yeah.
overall transparency.
Exactly, and that was, key, that I think our county commission, and everyone says, oh, you three work real well together, and we seem to come by, around the fire. No, we don't. But what we've done is and the word was respect. You have to respect and work with each other. If you watch us, you won't know who's the Republican and who's the Democrat at times. And I think that's key. We're a Monongalia County resident first. Now, with that being said, I also go into a little bit further of respect. And I think this is a concern, and I've written it down, about the crisis that the state government was facing, and that we read about our leadership in Charleston, and I said, whether Republican or Democrat, appears to give the perception that our county and municipal governments are considered an afterthought, especially in Mon County. And it's a lack of respect. You heard it from everyone saying, whether it's a level 1 city or a level 4 city or the county, something happens to us from exit 99 and above. And one of the things that I've been public about was the state senatorial positions. When they redid the districts, not the magisterial, but when they did the districts, when it first came out, the Republican government said, let's do Monongalia County as one district. I thought, what a great idea. It fit exactly the number. But for whatever reason, the night before, it came out and we split us. And that's a problem that concerns me. If you ask about what we need or have to change, we need to learn how to speak as one person. And we are continually manipulated down by the southern part of the state not to speak as one. And that, again, I keep going back to the challenge. The problems and solutions are not going to be done in Charleston. It's going to be the people in this room and who are watching this program. You deal with these difficult problems every day. We now need to work together and be vocal so they understand our concerns.
So, and I wanted to let the audience know that this is the second part of the question session, and then we're going to open it up to you guys for discussion. I am here wearing the hat of the Morgantown Board of Realtors, and so we're going to dive a little bit into housing and such like that. And you have touched a little bit on some of the topics that we're going to talk about, but let's dive in a little bit further. So with so much expansion, including the Children's Hospital, Industrial Park, and West Ridge, the already lacking availability of workforce housing is only going to get more challenging. According to census.gov, median household income in our county for 2019 was $52,455. Conversely, year-to-date, median house sale values are in our area, Monongalia County, is $269,000, and the average is nearly $310,000. That's a big disparity. Wow. A common issue in each of your municipalities, and this is to the mayor's please first, a common issue in each of your municipalities regarding real estate is blight. On the concept of rising tides raise all ships, what policies do you think could help address the issue of both blighted properties and availability for attainable and accessible workforce housing for the betterment of our communities? Go.
We're going to stop.
Start your clock.
You want me to go first? I'll go first.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know about policies. I'm not sure what you're addressing, when you say that, but for Granville, it's a challenge because we are a lower income community. What I have seen in all my years that I've been associated with Granville are outside people coming in and snatching up older homes and turning them into rental properties. Now, one trend that has changed probably over the last 5 or 6 years I think because our homes are lower priced, we have had some young families actually move in and redo some older homes. There's more kids catching a school bus now on Main Street than there has been in the last 2 years than there has been in probably the last 15 years. Now I live in and I'll call it the older residential section of Granville. And everyone that lives in my area are people that have been there for years. Like my husband and I have been in the same place for 50 years. So and around us are all older residents or residents that have passed away, but their children have chosen to move into those homes because it's a quiet neighborhood. Now, along Main Street, it's a little bit different story, but I don't know what the answer to that is. There are a lot of older homes that can be fixed up that are affordable for young families and in neighborhoods that are quiet and safe. So I don't know what changes that trend, but I sure wish it would change because there are a lot of pieces of property, they're not gigantic and they're not homes or 6,000 square feet, but if they're in a nice community and in a safe community and close to a really nice park and shopping and bus and, the post office. So I don't know what changes that. I think just perception of Granville, period.
Yeah, maybe we need to hold one of these next forums in Granville.
Yes.
So we can see more. So some of the needs that I see that would help with some of the turnover that might help real estate is if we had more, and I'm trying to remember the term, I think it's like universal housing, but it's housing that someone that's using a wheelchair or someone that's has mobility issues could use. So if we had more houses of this universal design or a design that's accessible and all on one level, then some of the older people that live in our neighborhoods who have looked, and they really have looked, would move into some of those homes, and then those houses would be available for what Mayor Lewis was talking about, for them to be renovated for younger families that would like all the bedrooms that the people who have aged in place really don't use anymore. And some people in my neighborhood have installed like an elevator in their house, in a house that was definitely, you would normally not put an elevator in because they just needed to, and they couldn't find an accessible house to move into. So that there's sort of that element. We've worked on legislation that's not very popular, where we have a vacant house ordinance. And part of it is when somebody has a vacant house, obviously no one's using it. And it can be a vacant house that's vacant for a reason, like pretty soon somebody's gonna do something. It can be a house that's vacant and then it just is vacant for 20 years and it smells at the curb and it's not appealing as part of a neighborhood. It can create light of one house and one house and one house all becoming vacant. So, but with that goes increasing fines. So people who have experienced this ordinance in action find that they're irritated because the money that they would have put into possibly renovating the house, who knows, they don't want to have to expend those dollars in fines. They really like to put that dollars into the house. So all of the types of ordinances that would help with blight have some kind of a mechanism that has a carrot and stick, and people prefer not to have that stick wielded at them. So so we've kept this in place, and we'll probably look at modifying it a little bit at some point. But basically, people should pay their fines and turn over their properties and not leave them vacant. And it's addressing someone that doesn't live here that's holding something as an investment, but really they're creating further blight by just holding something rather than actually using it. So it's definitely an issue. And I think at some point, as we become more and more of a desirable place to live with plenty of jobs and hospitals, education, all the different wonderful WVU amenities that we have, people do, the neighborhood that I happen to live in, which is behind Krebs Park, kind of near the Coliseum, people are buying 1 lot and 2 lots, taking down the house, building a new one. We have all kinds of kids now where we didn't. It was more people kind of aging in place and not as vibrant of a neighborhood. It's wonderful if you can have a mix of older people and empty nesters and a lot of kids moving in. It's a benefit come to everyone. So it's made a huge difference to have houses that are renovated and people moving in and kids around. And I think that happens in cities when there are parks, which I talked about. Mary Lewis talked about her park. And I think wherever in the city of Morgantown, there's a park or a schoolyard or some piece of property where kids can play, it really helps the real estate market and the desirability of a good place to live. Also, people like having a coffee shop in their neighborhood or having connectivity to the downtown, being able to find their way on a quiet street or pathway like a rail trail system to, you knew I had to talk about the rail trail system in there somewhere. But people appreciate having those amenities and being able to live above a storefront or live in a smaller home for affordability, but to have the amenities of the city definitely helps. And I'd love to hear your ideas about how we get these houses renovated.
Can I add something? Can I go back and add something? We also have similar ordinances. She was talking about vacant structures with the ascending funds for years of no one being in those. But it just took us 4 years in the court system to have a property demolished, okay? Because you want to follow all the legal steps, you don't want to get your municipality
Good point.
sued. And so when you have challenges like that, I mean, it just takes forever. And we're pretty on top of it too. I mean, we have full-time code enforcement. You know, we have everything in place that we need to have in place. But I want to go back to, I mean, the property values in Granville are low, but for a working family that's not necessarily a professional, you know, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, they're very affordable pieces of property that have been, for the most part, maintained fairly well. So there should be an attraction, I would think, for someone other than, you know, people that just buy it for rental property to try to purchase, even as a starter home, because they're very affordable.
Can I add to that? I know that was a municipality discussion, but I think the county plays a part. As I mentioned earlier, we're working with the city with the Richford project, not telling them what they need to do with this area of the city, but working with them to help them define how this area of the city needs to be redeveloped. We also work as we connect our county. We'll be making areas in the western end of the county more available as we finally get to the point where we have our interchange. Harmony Grove interchange is going to create a whole the other side of the interstate will be open for residential development. So we're always looking at that too. We're even looking at that in our conversations. We have monthly conversations with Greene County where they want to be like a bedroom community for Warren County. Because a lot of most of their residents work here. We employ more people, more Crescent County residents than Crescent County does. So, you know, there's areas that we still look from a regional perspective as far as affordable housing. We not necessarily be within our borders, but also in our incorporated areas. We're also constantly looking.
If I could add, I agree with you. I have written down the state law and the frustration we have in the county. We don't have what you even have in municipal laws. And it'll take 60 days, we give a citation. Then you give another 60 days for the second citation. Then what they do is they pull off one piece of construction and say, I've started working on it. It's 2-3 years to get it done. I agree with you. But the other thing I want to just throw out is the biggest problem I deal with, someone says you need to have more affordable housing. And to a realtor, I'll say the same thing. What is affordable housing? To you, it may be one thing. To me, it's something else. And that's the problem is we bring in these new factories and companies that are coming in. The builders are going to decide what's affordable housing for those workers, and that may be different than what people perceive affordable housing is.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help it. That's why I do not use the term affordable.
That's
housing.
exactly right.
I use the term workforce housing because that is what we need. That is what our disparity is in
Yes.
this county. Teachers cannot afford housing. First responders cannot afford housing. Single parents,
I
even
agree.
some working parents, even WU employees. That's why I do not use the term
Throughout
affordable
the
housing.
spectrum,
Workforce
workforce housing throughout the
Throughout the
spectrum.
Add one more, they then combine low-income housing with affordable housing. And the problem is, when we start to get those 55 individuals, when we all work together as a county and city, 2 Christmases ago, and we put them in the housing, you know what the problem was? They didn't know how to act in those apartments. So the key is not only getting them in like low-income housing, but working with staff to help them understand how you take, I mean, when we went and settled the houses, they thought they were outside. They threw all the garbage on the hallway or something like that. So it's more than just housing. It's the programs to work with.
Okay, now, going on to the county level. On the county level, what is the status of the currently debated subdivision zoning plan, and how do you think that will positively or negatively impact workforce housing? Is there a project timeline on when it will either be agreed upon and implemented or set aside as unattainable?
No, I'll let him go first because we have a difference of philosophy. So, but I mean, positive, but go ahead.
Yeah, and to say there's a difference in philosophies, we all know we need to do something.
Yes.
In terms of what that something is. And subdivision regulations and land use ordinances, that's something that's been talked about in this county for 50, 60 years. That's why the public only hears about it every 2 years because there's an election cycle. So you hear about it, then the next election cycle comes up, and then you don't hear about it, and then you hear about it for another year, and then the same process over and over. That's why I'm insistent that we have the conversation and continue the conversation. When I came on commission, I was told even before I was elected, hey, you want some inside information? Here's this 200-page document that they're going to land on the citizens as soon as the elections are over with. And I didn't take the bait. I decided to run on my qualifications. So when I got in, I asked, okay, so what's this document they're talking about? And we forced the discussion. I forced the discussion because we have these boards and commissions that work on these things, and to just continuously shelf this, we're always having a problem having people serve on these things. And I thought at least it needed to be an public hearing. So we had 2 public meetings. We had every single person to man or woman came in and said, I agree that we need to do something, but, and then they go through a laundry list. And some of them had real reasoned arguments. Some of them were just repeating what the next person said. Every person said we need to do something, but. So when we ultimately voted down that version of the subdivision regulations, we said, listen, my opinion, this is a cut and paste nightmare. We need to work on this. We need to address these concerns. Anybody that wants to work on this, raise your hand. We'll make you part of the process. And we did that. We had 50 or so people say they want to be part of the process. We had like 3 participants. That's the thing. Everybody wants to voice their opinion, but when it comes time to actually sitting in a room and working through this, we went out and we hired our planner retired. And we hired a new planner that with the eye on coming in and tightening these things up, working with all the different players in the community and getting something that we can ultimately put together and put in front of the commission for a vote. That process is still moving forward. It would have happened probably last year and a half, but COVID hit and we weren't able to have, and we promised during COVID that we weren't going to have any meetings. We weren't going to take up anything where the public couldn't come and voice their opinion. So we couldn't have meetings where you couldn't have 40, 50 people come in and voice their opinion. So we've held up on that. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, our planner, staff, and planning commission has been working and kind of refining all the different things. It's almost like a catch-22. You know, people that simply don't want anything to happen, they say, well, you didn't address this issue. Well, the planner says, well, when this happens, you know, we'll consider this. Oh, no, but you got to have that in writing. So when you put it in writing, it adds 5 pages, and they say, oh, you have too many pages. So it just keeps going back and forth. But we will push this forward. It's on the last of the public meetings. I believe are going to be held November 17th. That's where individual meetings are scheduled with the developers to come in and get final opinions. At that point, it will be brought, a schedule will be brought to us as far as when it will be taken up, when the public meetings will happen in beginning of the year. And we'll go forward with the process, but it will receive a public hearing. And I don't think anybody that's been through what we've been through this past spring with some of these stormwater runoff and these issues, it's a perfect example of why we need something. Because the issues that we saw with stormwater runoff, where it was exacerbated by building that occurred without any foresight or any planning. So we do need something, and I don't think anybody will argue that we don't need something, but we're planning to move forward, have that discussion, have that debate. I know even your question references the word zoning. You know, I think we just need to quit being so afraid of having the conversation and have a conversation, work to something that we can be acceptable to everybody and move forward. This past summer, the commission waded down that road where we started dealing with orphan roads and how that affects development. So development was built 40 years ago. The developer builds the development and moves on. The people that maybe the second or third owner of that house now has these issues where they can't get to their house, the bus can't get to their house, the trash can't get to their house because of the dilapidated roads, which were the responsibility of the homeowners association. Now, maybe there's a homeowners association, but maybe they're not as robust as it would have been intended to help address that issue. So we adopted the orphan road grant process where people can come in and address these issues with us, and we'll fund those fixes. But it's just it's a fix. And there needs to be a plan to move forward. And that's really addressing the root causes of some of these issues where we need these land ordinances in place. So we're dealing with the symptoms at this point. We really need to deal with the root causes. I'm sorry, I had that backwards. We're dealing with the symptoms, but we really need to deal with the root causes about where we're planning. And if people were to sit down and listen to the presentation, read the ordinance, read the accompanying guide that explains, provides examples, I think they understand that, wow, this is an attempt to really bend over backwards to work with all parties involved to try not to have that effect. And your initial question was, what effect does this have on the workforce? And if you are workforce housing, if you do things right, I think it will have a positive effect. But you know what we're told all the time is, well, if you do this, the housing won't be affordable. Well, you're telling us that there's no affordable housing as it is. So again, we're not afraid. I'm not afraid to have a conversation. I think the commission agrees to have the conversations where, at what level, what we end up proposing. So,
And I agree with Sean. I call subdivision regulations, everybody has a Facebook solution. They're all on Facebook, they all know, and they put it on, but then no one wants to really, as you said, we have 50 developers that said, we want to be a part of this. And they wrote all these things about us and how horrible and how good, and then they didn't show up. And basically my 2 areas of what I want to see, I'm a little bit different. I would like to see out of the subdivision regulations, 2 areas addressed immediately. And that's water runoff, it's WARDER, water runoff and roads. Because those are the 2 areas that we deal with more with the problems. Where we run into a problem is you have one side, the developer saying, like I said, well, we can't do it, it'll stop all our development. And we can't stop the development because we just had COVID and everyone's hurting, so we need to make money. On the other side, I represent the Western District. And I'll bet you 9 out of every 10 times this comes up, the people out in Wana or Blacksville all get upset because they don't understand. All they want to do is if they have a property, they want to just give it to their family members and split it up. So it's that miscommunication and confusion that we're trying to work and resolve. I agree with Sean. We have to have something. I've been on county commission 8 years, and this is a disaster right now that we haven't come up with something. I'd rather try something short, see if it works, which would be the water runoff and roads, and then go from there. But we'll see what the three of us agree. I don't know.
One of the orphan road program projects that we looked at was Pinecrest Village.
Yes.
And we took, again, we have our planning commission involved in these discussions. We have Department of Highways involved in this discussion. And we went out there and everybody knows where Pinecrest Road is. It's at the intersection of Stewartstown and Point Marion Road. It's that turn that goes, as soon as you turn left to go to Point Marion, you go right down. And Department of Highways individuals sitting there and looking at where all these houses come from. There's over 400 units that were over the hill, and it's all one road in, one road out.
Yeah.
And he goes, where's all these houses come from? So there are regs in place that should be addressing this, but they're not being followed.
Right.
8A is not being followed. That's the problem, and that's what these subdivision regulations are meant, is to be a kinder, gentler version of 8A to make sure that they're enforced. But and we get that all the time. Hey, there's state regulations that take care of what you're trying to do. Yeah, but they're not being enforced. So somehow we have to.
And we're not allowed to enforce them, that which is the other part of the problem. There's state laws, a little different. We're a city that can have their own departments. We're not allowed. We're an arm of the state government. So when we try and do something, the state comes and says, we do it. And we say, fine, we'll do it. Well, we didn't know anything about it. We don't have enough people.
Mayor Selin and Lois, would you like to chime in on this topic?
I would love to chime in on this topic. Rather than looking at it as zoning, it's really having standards. So if a community has standards and is able to have enforcement, that you can have standards so that when somebody's buying a product from a real estate agent or someone else, they know that the roadway in is going to be there next week and not wash away or not have a problem. They would know that the stormwater has been managed in their development, so that then when the next development comes, and that can just be completely within the county and not within any municipality, but that they're managing their storm, because we have steep drainages. And once again, when you have steep drainages and then you have a flat area where someone wants to build, that's where all the water's going. So we really, if we can manage our stormwater as far as kind of quality control for people living in a development, that means that next week there's not going to be some giant rivulet that comes down right in somebody's backyard. So I really appreciate the efforts towards achieving this, and if I were a county commissioner, which I'm not, I would put forth best efforts and get her done, because we can't get to that aspect of taking care of our entire community until there's some regulation in the county, so that it's kind of balanced off between counties and municipalities.
You don't have to.
Well, probably not a whole lot, other than, I mean, with Granville and all the development that happened in Granville, that didn't even actually involve the town of Granville, because I think Scott's Run actually took all of the stormwater and sewer that, from University Town Center. But, I don't even know if this is applicable, but it would be nice to have something on the county level, so that sort of what Jenny touched on, if you have development that is, butted up against your municipality, that there's some regulation or stipulation of what impact that that's gonna have on a neighboring, municipality, so. I don't know if that'd be part of that.
No, but that is a huge,
That's Boroughs Run. That was when I was on city council, Boroughs Run, the development, all the water went into Boroughs Run, the city.
yes.
Yeah, we had that a lot. That's the Pompano Run.
But
Yeah.
Counselor Sikora and I have been working on an issue where a neighborhood abuts a property in the county, and the property in the county is incredibly dilapidated and smells bad and has a lot of brush, and it's right up against a neighborhood where they have a different expectation that in the neighborhood, their houses are more rodent-free and smell-free, and then when you're right abutting something that the building size, the dilapidated building size, when the wind blows. So somebody has a beautiful deck and a garden, and she sits out there, and you get a smell, you get a sighing of the roof, because the roof is completely down on top of a foundation, and then inside the foundation, we actually went in, there's like materials that
Our
are wet.
dilapidated building ordinance needs
It's
some
soggy.
teeth.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
we need some
agree.
teeth.
We complain, we
We agree.
do all the paperwork, and as Commissioner Bloom says, they do exactly enough to
Get by.
check off to get by, and then you're right back at the beginning.
But we do need like a buffer, like exactly what Mayor Lewis was saying, you need a buffer in between properties that are more controlled than in a municipality, and then properties that are outside, so that you don't have an entire neighborhood, because this backs a whole bunch of houses, so it doesn't just affect one person or two people, it affects a whole neighborhood. So we just need to figure out ways to handle.
And I know Westover isn't
Borders.
here, but anyone who drives up on Holland Avenue, it's driving me crazy. Go past Colasantes, that whatever building on the left, that every week they move one piece of wood. But that's been there for 30 years because they followed the law. So I agree, we need more teeth, and that's what we need maybe as a group to get together, to go to the state level and say that. That's a great point.
So at this time, Amy, is there any questions in the chat that we need to address? Accessory dwelling units may be more affordable for workforce than new housing are. I'm sorry. Are infill ADUs allowed, or are there development code restrictions? And that is from Timothy something with Stantec. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name.
Could you say that? I'm not sure.
Accessory dwelling units, ADUs, may be more affordable for workhouse than new housing. Are infill ADUs allowed, or are there development code restrictions?
That's a question that's way above my head.
Sounds
I
like-
know,
that sounds like a
I-
city- That sounds like a city question.
Okay, city questions.
So an accessory dwelling unit is like a little apartment above a garage,
Oh,
or a,
I should know.
some other, that's the classic.
Mhm.
But it's attached to a home that's usually owner occupied, but then someone can make a little extra money to help pay the mortgage,
Mhm.
or maybe if they're elderly. We had a grandma in Florida that had someone that lived above her garage that then helped her. That was kind of part of the deal with that particular person who's leasing. So in the city of Morgantown, often those are not allowed because we have preference for single-family owner-occupied housing. We have a ton of rentals, and I'm not sure exactly, I guess, a duplex or something where you have shared spaces, that makes housing more affordable. But we have experimented now in the city. The Wiles Hill neighborhood wanted to have more accessory dwelling units allowed. And so they have changed, they have some sort of an overlay. I'm not certain the exact way that it was written out, but they have, as we have planning districts that are looked at, they wanted to try out having more of those available. So they have changed their code. This this is the year of comprehensive planning. I don't know if you all know that, but the university is, the county is, transportation system with the MMPO, all the cities, this is required in state code every 10 years. So, so this is the year of that. And so if somebody's interested in making sure that there's more accessory dwelling units allowed, they can be very affordable, very helpful, and fit in with neighborhoods. I would say that where there's parking issues, where parking is really tight, then I think neighborhoods will not want more accessible dwelling units because they just don't feel like they can layer in more people and more cars in an area. But
They are allowed in the county.
and I don't know how you guys handle like above garage apartments and stuff like that, if that's allowed.
In Granville, they are not allowed. When we did our zoning, that was one issue that we addressed. But with Granville, the lot sizes are small. And because the homes are older and some of them are larger, there's not enough room to be able to accommodate that. And parking also is an issue. Most of our residents aren't privy to off-street parking. So anything that's new construction, that's one of the requirements. But when you only have a 40 by 80 lot, you know, and then you would try to accommodate an extra unit, it would not comply with our zoning.
See, I learned something right here. You did.
We have another question.
Do anybody in the audience would like to ask a question? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Michael Rich. I'm with Monongalia, covers my daily planning of Walker counties. And sort of a question / statement is, that, you know, the lead was this morning was that, you know, with dilapidated housing and a lack of workforce housing and need to have more collaboration. I would just hope that that the city and the county the various cities in the county would look towards existing nonprofits and other organizations, the potential ways for collaboration. So that way, you know, with our program, we build affordable housing, single family housing, but they also pay the money back. So that's going back towards taxes and local municipalities and things like that. So hopefully that there'll be some, as you're looking for collaboration, trying to deal with some of these issues, we can look towards the other nonprofits that are doing great work in our county, in our cities. You know, I'm just speaking on behalf of affordable housing, but that those are some possible ways for collaboration in the future. A lot of cities and stuff like that are all working to also incorporate others into that, be part of the process to deal with some of the issues.
My ears should be burning or something. This morning, someone sent me something, I think. Anyway, a person similar to you in a different type of housing program sent me something about a new program federally for workforce housing and affordable housing. And I said, okay, so we have this new program. And I said, how do we just scale up what we already have? Because we have different parts of our community that are willing to build or renovate homes and make them available. And they're already in place and they're already there. Why aren't we scaling up those programs? Anyway, I didn't read the answer. I think there's an answer in my box. but they said, glad you asked that, because it is an issue that as there's new programs, then you have to do all the setup and startup for those new programs versus working through the programs that already exist and making sure that we're funneling dollars and properties to the entities that are already doing this.
What you do is an amazing program. Several years ago, I believe the realtors got the city, the county, and the developers together. It was a housing meeting. And what I learned that I did not realize is when I asked, well, why aren't you willing to build this low-income housing or workforce housing? And they said the paperwork that they have to fill out to meet the federal guidelines to get all these funds, they needed to hire a full-time person to do it. So it wasn't even affordable. They'd rather build a $500,000 house and make money. So you are right, you can do some limited, but when you try and get a more massive or larger numbers, I did not realize that concept and the problems they had to deal with, and that came out of the realtors meeting, because we just thought, well, you're selfish and you want to make money, and they were like, no, we're willing to do it, but we even considered the hiring a person as city county to help them get through the paperwork, but that fell through.
But yeah, there's a lot of, opportunities for federal funding, especially with some of the proposed legislation in Washington coming down, that there are a lot of logistics and, partnering with local governments to, there's some places that have land tax, there's some places that have direct, programs. That partnership not only helps
Right.
us fulfill our mission, but we're, helping to solve that issue. So
Are you more short on properties to build on that are affordable lots in locations? Or are you more short on funds to build houses at this point?
yes.
Right.
No,
Good answer.
It really depends. I mean, they go hand in hand. So, we may get a piece of property, but if we happen to purchase that at market rate, and that we can't really put that, pass that cost on to our family. So, or if it has to be a cleaned up property, that makes it difficult. But right now we have we also cover Preston and Marion County as well. And, we have some location. It's more difficult to get property in Mon County, for sure, especially we like to do, duplex or triplexes or even, little neighborhoods that we've done in the past. So getting, sometimes people want to donate a lot, but it's not buildable. So, trying to do some of that master planning of property, but then also the funds that go into that, the cost of building materials going up so much. That's something that we need as well, but those homeowners will pay that mortgage back, so that it just continues the cycle of building. So both, but I don't want to take everyone's time. We can speak later about that.
Sure. Get another question. Oh,
Any others from the audience at this point? Live audience? Dan?
I have a question for Mayor Lewis. We've seen over the years that Granville's made a lot of improvements, and the access to the river is one recent improvement that is, I think, still in the process of being done. We've got a boat ramp at Star City, and you're putting in a boat ramp in Granville. Once that's finished, my question is that accessible to residents, county? How will that be managed, that wonderful access to the river?
It's going to be open to anyone. We're actually in the process of working on purchasing some additional property to, we want to put fishing docks there. We want to do, picnic tables. There should be restroom facilities there. We have property where trucks with boat trailers will be able to park. I mean, it's definitely going to be probably a 5-year project, but no, it'll be open to the public.
Good. Thank you.
I have a question here. This comes from Elvin. West Virginia population and area does not justify or can afford 55 counties. Preston, Mon, and Taylor would create a county approximately equal to Kanawha. It would take municipalities and counties to work toward this goal. Where are you on reducing the number of counties?
I think it's very logical. In fact, I think it should be, but Monongalia County is an extremely large county. I would not want to go with the other counties. We really have different needs and structures, but you look at some areas with 2 or 3 counties that only have 10 or 17, that you mentioned how many counties were under like 15,000. That only makes sense. To have 55 counties, 55 school boards, 55 superintendents, 55 administrations, that is a waste of funds. Monongalia County, I think, I would be concerned to go into with Preston or other counties. Their views and goals are a lot different than what we have here. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of things we're doing together. I see Susan in the background, that, the CBB board working with Preston County, we look at some things like that we want to work together. I think I'd rather work with Greene County. I mean, one of the problems we have is We have Harrison County that wants to fight everything that we do. Airport, everything. I know I shouldn't say that, but I do. But then you have Greene County that wants to be a part of everything we do. So why don't we start working with those counties that have similar goals and objectives and run programs along that lines? We said to Greene County, we have the worst kept secret factory coming that can't be announced, but it's already been announced. But that's going to open up a lot of people and housing. And Greene County is willing to see what can we do to offer that kind of housing. So that's how I would say it in that way. Sure.
And I don't know if, I appreciate Ellen's question. I just don't know if we're ever going to see a grassroots movement to consolidate counties. I think it's going to be, if it ever happens, it's going to be something that happens if the legislature can be forced down. Because again, everybody wants their identity. I can't see Preston County wanting to be in a county with us because they feel like they'd be, we'd overrule them. We'd be the big elephant in the room that would take control. And that's really not what it needs to be about. But again, just we're all human. We're all individuals that have our own ideas and we want to be heard. So I just don't see unless out of necessity, I really don't see the grassroots effort ever really taking much hold.
If I can say one thing that I agree with Eldon, when we started the North Central Road Caucus, these roads, I just met a guy, I just parked over here. This guy was from Ontario, and he said, "What's wrong with your roads?" I mean, that's the first thing he said to me, and he couldn't believe how bad they were. And then what we need to do, and it can only help here, not in Charleston, is we need to speak as one voice, and we're not doing that. And that's what we're getting Preston County, Harrison, Marion, all working together on the same goals. If we could do that, we would be moving so much more forward. Instead, we sit back and fight among each other, and we build roads to nowhere down in the southern part of the state. I have to know if they don't get in
Again,
trouble.
I prefer that we work on things where we can.
Yes.
Tom just mentioned CBB. One county residents may not know that our CBB includes Preston County, and also includes Taylor County. So, those are areas where the ability to work together and synergy is already taking place. There's things that we can work on. The road caucus is one that got us a little bit more.
Got attention.
Got more attention. We need to focus on those things rather than things we may not agree on.
Yeah, I just agree with anything where we can make those baby steps to working together with the surrounding. There's even a mountain biking group, what is it, Mountaineer Trail Network.
Right, $1 million grant.
And that's
Yes.
a whole number of counties. Is that like 5 or 6 counties or something?
15 counties.
15 counties, see,
Yes.
I'm behind.
Thank you.
So there's 15 counties all working together. So I think we need to increase our scale of what we see because the federal government sees scale, and that's why combining municipalities sounds great. Is that the federal government sees scale? But our reality is that we have lots of different places that have this identity that we're talking about. And so the more that we can layer on and work together and have that respect between entities, the better off we're going to be in the long run. So I think looking at one thing and saying that's the benchmark, that's the, that it has to be law enforcement, or it has to be stormwater management, which I'm all about, or it has to be one certain thing. I don't think it's going to be any one certain thing. It's going to be all those baby steps of people working together, maybe taking on the example of the Convention Visitors Bureau, or when Matt works with all of the other entities that are similar near us, including Harrison County, and have meetings. I just think we need to see that scale because that's the scale that the rest of the world's working on.
Any other audience questions for the minute? We have another online question. So this is a 2-part question from Robin Hill, and I'm going to ask them one at a time because I think it's probably too much to say all at once. Part 1, have the firefighters from the affected departments commented on their opinions regarding a countywide fire department? It may be very difficult to maintain a professional paid / part volunteer fire department.
Oh, I can answer that. Going to the meetings, yes, they are adamantly opposed to it. Everyone likes their own identity and the community, the Triune, Halleck, the Blacksville. It's not that they don't want to work together, but they don't want to lose that identity and they're very concerned. The problem we have is Sheep Lake, you have a $500,000 house. The fire truck shows up, 2 guys on the fire truck. We need more, we need volunteer firemen. I mean, you mentioned it. We have to do something on that. I don't know, Sean.
Not really. I mean, same thing as Tom said, you know, our town chose to go to a combination department because of the lack of volunteers and the need to service the businesses and the housing at University Town Center. Of course, our residents benefited from all of that because they now have 24/7 protection, but it was a matter of need. You know, you're right. If you have a working fire, you can't do anything with 2 people.
No.
Because it's 2 in, 2 out. So you need at least 4 to address that. And that's why Granville did what they did.
Unfortunately, something will probably happen when there's a crisis.
Yeah.
So when
Right.
you don't have the 2 to get on the truck or whatever the crisis is, but in the meantime, people can do things like working on training or training facilities together or other kinds of, when municipalities are next to each other, share and have those agreements back and forth, then we're practicing that collaboration that could make that happen sometime.
I want to paint a picture to our citizens that it's bleak that you have a fire, no one's going to show up. These entities all have mutual aid agreements and they all work together.
Right.
But it does affect timing.
Yes.
And it's an emergency. Time is, you know, critical. Time could, a couple minutes could mean a life.
Yes.
So part 2 of Robin's question is, chain of command can be very blurred when everyone tries to get together and causes resentment. We also need a countywide enforcement of the fire and building codes. That would require the adoption of the state building code by the county commission. Why has this not happened?
Well, we've been trying to work on land use and subdivision regulations. And I think that's something that's maybe a step or so ahead of that. So trying to work through the baby steps first. It's not anything that's ever been brought to our attention or say, hey, this is the next step, but it's certainly something that should, you know, can't have no harm in having a conversation about. But if we can't get to the point where we have simple land use and subdivision regulations, I'm not sure that we're ever going to get to the point where we can have a higher level of regulations.
Let's just say we approve them, but there's a word that is missing: enforcement. We can't do it. We're not allowed, the state, so then the state would have to come in and enforce it. There's your problem. We're not allowed to hire those people. That is a state enforcement problem. And that's the concern that we have, because we're the arm of the state government. And as much as people think we have all this power, actually the city has more power of being able to direct what they can control inside their city. We can only do, if the law says it's not written in, we can't do anything. That was a perfect example with the alcohol bill that we had to get rewritten. Now we're getting $1 million a month for alcohol, but we were not written that the county could get that information. So we had to change the law. And that's the frustrating part of West Virginia. It's called enabling legislation.
Can I address that as well? As far as code enforcement, you know, and this can be, it just depends on who you are. And we see this all the time. And our office managers here with us, our city manager, and she can attest to this. You know, code enforcement is, we have adopted all of the codes and we have code enforcement. You heard me mention that earlier. People don't necessarily see that as a good thing, you know. they want code enforcement enforced if it's enforced on their
Someone-
neighbor.
Someone
But
else.
they don't want to
Yes.
comply, and so that's really a touchy subject, and our office deals with it. You know, we have everything in place that we need to have in place to enforce it, but that is a really touchy subject, and I can't, that would be a huge undertaking for the county to do. And a lot of people won't buy in a municipality, they won't buy a house in Granville
Because they're
or
afraid of.
in Star City or in Westover, because they don't want to deal with code enforcement. That's, to me,
But they
that's a
don't
tricky
realize is that
issue.
protects them. And that means that they're getting a product that they know has been built a certain way, or should have been built a certain way, depending upon whether there was code enforcement at the time it was built.
And you must be reaching out, because I've now had 3 phone calls from developers. I mean, this is unbelievable. I said, can I call you later? So you are touching on a subject that's very important to everyone.
And we had this discussion when we had our land use, the comprehensive plan meeting a little while back, where we were talking about, I'm sure there could be, there's got to be a middle ground.
Yeah.
Because I'm a city resident, so I follow under the city zoning. And when I built my house, now I lived in my house. I didn't come and buy a dilapidated house, tear it down, and build something. I bought my house with my sister, and I lived in it for about 20 years. And after redoing every room and starting over again, I was like, this isn't working. I have too many fundamental flaws. So I tore down my house and had someone build it. It was the first time that my builder had ever built in the city. And he never, that was 8 years ago, and he's never built again. So I think that if I was a city official, I'd say, well, I have to take a critical look at why that is. And maybe there's ways that we can, work to reduce the paperwork, or work to reduce the burden that it puts on builders. Just like we can do things in the opposite direction in accounting to ensure that when things are, when developments are planned, that they're planned, they have, with an engineer having a look at the plans, and there's a little bit more of a thought process that's put into that. So I think we can go both ways, but I know that it was the winter we had the big freeze. And I got caught in the middle of that because the city, there was a question about, I have 2 lots, and there's a question about how close I can be to my own lot. And it delayed. My contractor showed up with to excavate, and they didn't have the paperwork, and it cost me a month delay, and then it ended up costing me about 5 months on the end, because we got in the middle of a winter freeze and never did get on the roof before winter. So there are, again, if I was a city official, I'd say, well, why is that? Are there areas where we can be more efficient? So, yeah, I see both sides of it.
Yeah, I would like to throw this question out, and please don't answer it, but if you want to send me some information to the county, I'd be real interested in seeing how the realtors feel about subdivision regulation. Because you hear, oh, you want it, but then if they want to go sell houses, do they hear something that we don't hear? So please feel free to write some of your comments so we could have it, positive or negative, because I think that's really important too. We don't hear the comments from everyone. And what we hear is the ones who are on Facebook or loud, but there may be only a few of them. And it's unfortunate the rest of us have to deal with that situation. And they're looking at me.
Solutions.
Blue moves.
Stay off Facebook.
I know, that's what he always says to me. Yes. So-
I just have a question. So I know Sean had talked a lot about the housing influx, for example, at Point Marion and Stewartstown Road, and how we're not coordinating with the road development. What efforts have been made to coordinate with the Board of Education? Because I also find that they're not really being brought into the loop either, and it's such a mess between sort of the Morgantown High and University High, and I know it's a subject we can't talk about with rezoning. I know that's not going to happen from a political perspective, but are there efforts being made to kind of pull the Board of Education into those discussions as well?
Yeah, there are always, as you noticed earlier, I brought, when we were talking about this in this different municipalities, I also mentioned Board of Education, because there are things whenever we have a development that's being planned. In the past, the Board of Education always became aware after something was developed. And then they've got to scurry to figure out where they're going to put a new school. So we've brought them in on a lot of conversations. When we were doing the Harmony Grove TIF district, we specifically called in the school board and said, hey, listen, we're going to be putting an interchange in here. We're going to be further developing this area. You may want to start taking a look at it in regards to it meeting your school needs. I hear the story all the time about how supposedly in Westridge that there was a certain amount of property that was promised to the school before they started that whole TIF district. Well, when you're looking at blighted area, and 40 acres is nothing to set aside for a school district. But now when you're looking at an area where it's $400,000 an acre, it's a little harder for the developer to give up that area. So we want them to be involved in the front end of those conversations to, again, just be aware of the development that goes on, because everything we do, someone else lives downstream, and the school board in a lot of instances has to kind of be proactive or reactive rather than has the ability to be proactive. So we do bring them in on a lot of those discussions. And we've included the school board on a lot of these type of, map. They have a presence on map. Development authority, I don't know if they have the presence on the development authority currently, but we do keep them in the loop in a lot of these discussions.
I have to say this, okay? I will say it. We have it, and it's been exceptional. In fact, as soon as we find out where there could be a development, we contact them immediately because it's 3 to 5 years down the road, but they need to know. With that being said, I think right now I think we need to follow very carefully, and I won't say yay or nay, about the charter school, private charter, public charter school situation. I think this could have devastating effects to our school system. And it's just something you need to monitor and watch this very carefully. And the only reason why I say that is when our community isn't able to make decisions about our own educational system, then there's a concern there. Forget about whether you're for it or against it. I know Sean knows.
Usually we finish each other's sentences. I had no idea where he was going.
I'm sorry. You talk about issues. This is a major issue affecting us. And it's something to be concerned about. I'll be quiet now. My phone's ringing. There's somebody who's not liking this. I just want to say thank you. I wish we could do this more often. And maybe, even if there's groups or committees that we could get together, because this is how we solve problems. As I said, everyone wants to throw money out. I mean, people go to church, they give the money and say, I want to help the homeless. I say, I'd rather give me 10 hours, just like you're saying, your housing, your program. If you work 10 hours on building a house, makes a bigger difference, because then you understand what it takes. And that's what is hands-on is key.
Anyone else from the audience? I think we're about out of time, so.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much to our moderators. You guys have done a fantastic job today, and the Government Affairs Committee. Some really thought-provoking questions that I think have, while we are in our silos sometimes, I feel like we have been brought together a little bit more today. And it's just the start of many more conversations like this. Hopefully we can include all municipalities and maybe get things going again with discussions that are an hour long and very productive. It's a privilege that you all joined us today, and thank you for answering questions honestly and candidly. I think they definitely helped us understand where all municipalities are coming from, where the county's coming from, and how we can better look to the future and work together. And I just wanted to say a couple of words that came up several times that are very encouraging to me personally, and I think to our county as well, are respect for one another, collaboration, perception, and then passion. I think the passion is very palpable among all of you for what you do and for your municipality and the county. So thank you very much. And I would like to end this by recognizing our president and CEO, Russ Rogerson. And if you could say a few words to summarize this wonderful event.
You all didn't really think we could do a whole event, and not have me say something. I really want to thank the panelists. I really want to thank the board of realtors and partnering with this event. Love the discussion, love the information that was shared. I really think you all did a great job with the questions and the answers. And I just appreciate that, because it's that open dialogue, that collaboration, that's what the partnership's all about. That's what we're trying to make that a commonplace thing in our county. So we're very excited about that. Really thank Bethany Ornbeck and Pinecrest, who was also a sponsor, and Mark Sassari of Southern Airways, that is a sponsor this morning. We wouldn't be able to do that without them. So if you haven't flown out of the airport, you know, if you need to, we got direct connections to National, I'm sorry, not National, Dulles. To Dallas, which will get you anywhere in the country and the world. So we're one plane change away from getting anywhere. And we need more people using that service for sure, right? So then you want to promote it, you talk about that. So anyhow, thank you all so much for doing this. The Government Affairs Committee, the partnership, did a great job. Thank you to the committee and particularly the panelists who asked the questions. So appreciate that. They put some thought and effort into those, and you can see no holds barred, right? So we had a lot of good questions and love the input and that feedback. So with that, I think we had a great morning. Also, we'll continue these kind of dialogues and work harder as a committee and as an organization to continue from a business perspective, getting this information out and about and connecting government with the private sector so that we can have results that we're all happy and proud of and moving our community forward. So thank you again and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.